Good morning 10th standard students. This is a continuation of our grammar topic whose part 1 we have already done. This is tenses and when to use which tense. We've done the first 5 tenses. In this video you are going to brush up on the remaining 2 tenses which you have already done, plus there is one new tense which you have to learn this year. Now this is the 6th tense that we have to do, which is l'imparfait. This is the past continuous tense. It's not the simple past, that is passé composé. Now, how do you get the root of the imperfect? Take the nu form of the verb in the present and then just strike out the ons. So, for example, finir, in the present tense for nu, it is nous finissons. So, cancel out the ons. What is left is the root finis. You will do this for any verb irrespective of the family in order to get the root. And then you would have to add on the endings of the imperfect tense, which is AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IZ, and AIENT. And that is how you form the imperfect. For 2 sets of ER verbs, you need to be very careful. The first is the CER verbs. For example, como ser, when you take it in the nu form, it is COMMEN, CONS, where the second C has a CD under it. So once you cancel ONS, it becomes COMMENC with the CD. Now you would add the endings like normal, but remember, when you are taking the imperfect for the nu and the vu, you have to remove that CD. For the other persons, it remains. Take note of this, this is an important exception. Similarly, for the GER verbs, when you take its nu form in the present, for example, manger, the most famous one, it will become mangions, MANGEONS. You cancel the ONS, what is left is MANGE. So you would add the imperfect endings like normal, okay, to all the persons, but when you're putting it for the nu and the vu, you would have to take out that extra e. These are the 2 exceptions, the CER verbs and the GER verbs. Be very careful when you're conjugating them in the imperfect. Now there is no particular use for the imperfect, as in there are no particular clue words which will help you decide when you have to use this tense. In order to check the use, you will have to wait for the third part of this video series, where you will figure out when this tense is used. There is only one major exception in the imperfect tense, which is être. When you take the nu form in the present, it is som, and there's no ons to cancel. So what are you going to do? Therefore, this becomes an exception. The imperfect root for être is et, e with the accent aigu. Please note the change in accent. In the radical, it is e with the circumflex, but in the root, it is e with accent aigu. And then you would add the endings as usual and get the imperfect. This is the sole exception in this tense. All the other verbs follow the rules. Okay, you can pause the video and solve these questions using the imperfect. And once you're done, check your answers with the next slide. Okay, we have come to the 7th tense, which is l'impératif or the imperative tense, which is used to give orders, commands, and directives. Now, the special feature about this tense is the verb is the first word of the sentence. There is no subject when you are using an imperative tense. The subject is implied. Now, what you also need to note is that the imperative is conjugated only for 3 persons, tu, nous, and vous. For je, for il and elle, and for il and elle the plural, there is never an imperative form. Now this is simple in the sense you have to use the same rules that you have learned for the present tense, except there are a couple of exceptions which you are seeing on the next slide. On this slide you can see how the verbs faire and vendre have been conjugated for the 3 different persons using the imperative tense. Go through these examples and understand. The one important exception to note is that verbs ending with er, including a layer which is irregular, drop the final s in the tu form when you're conjugating in the imperative. So when you want to say go to the park, it is va au parc, which is va and not vas. In the normal aller present it is tuva, pas, but in the imperative you have to drop the s for any er verb in the tu form. Similarly, par avec le professeur, there is no s. Ferme la porte vite, close the door quickly. Again, there is no s. Under normal circumstances in the present, there would be an s when you're conjugating these in the tu form. But in the imperative, note that you have to drop the s, only for the er verbs. The three complete exceptions to the rules of the imperative are these three, which you need to learn by heart. Avoir becomes aïe, aïon, aïe. Être becomes soit, soyons, soyez. And savoir becomes sache, sachons, sachez. It's pretty obvious when you have to use the imperative, I've already told you. When there is a sentence given to you without the subject. Now the question will be, how can I decide which person do I take if there is no subject? So there will always be a clue within the sentence for you to pick up which subject you are conjugating according to. Another thing that you shouldn't do is when you're writing the answer, please don't write the subject tu, nous, or vous. Straight away write the verb only. Remember, the imperative sentence has to start with the verb. So look at the first example there. The clue is given to you. VOS. Vo is the possessive adjective coming from vous. Therefore, you have to conjugate it in vous. So faire for vous in the present becomes fait. F-A-I-T-E-S. Second example. The clue is coming from, again, the possessive adjective te, which is the form of tu. Therefore, you have to take aimer for tu in the present, which is A-I-M-E-S. But remember, whenever you see er verb in the imperative for tu form, it should ring a bell that you have to cancel off the last s. Therefore, it becomes aime. Sentences may look similar to the ones you've already been doing. Yes, they are similar, but please copy them again because there are minute changes in between to give you the hint as to which person you have to conjugate the imperative for. Do this exercise very carefully and check the answers on the next slide. Now this is a new tense and this is the last tense which you have for your board exam, which is the conditionnel, or simply the conditional tense, which is the would tense. Think of it as a hybrid between the future and the imperfect, where you have the root which is exactly the same as the simple future, including the exceptions. That you have aller becomes ire, avoir becomes aure, être becomes sere. All those exceptions apply here also. And the endings are exactly the same as the imperfect. AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IZ, AIENT. So you just have to combine the future root and the imperfect ending and you will get the conditional tense. You can see on the left hand side, doch mir has been done for you in the conditional. For IR verbs, you know the future root is the verb itself. And then instead of adding the future endings, add the imperfect endings in order to obtain the conditional. On the right side, you can see avoir. You know avoir is an irregular future root. So take that root, which is AUR, and then add on the conditional endings. AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IZ, AINT, and you will get the conditional tense of the verb avoir as well. Now this has no particular use, as in there are no clue words for this tense. It is used for a particular structure of sentence, which you will see in the next video. These are the same sentences that you have been doing for the present, the passé composé, etc. Now try and do them in the conditional. Please do it slowly as this is a new tense for you, and try and solve it correctly. You will get the answers on the next slide. Now that we are done with all the tenses and how to form them, let's take up a few practice examples of the second type of question, where you are given the verb and you are given which tense to put it in, but there are no options. So look at the first example. Arriver has to be done in the future. So you know for the future, ER verbs remain the same and you just have to add on the ending. So for te cousin, which is third person plural, the ending would be ont, and you get your answer as arriveront. Now the second sentence, applaudir, has to be done in the imparfait. For imparfait, remember, you have to take the new form in the present and then cancel off the ons. So applaudir becomes applaudissons. So cancel the ons. You are left with applaudiss and then add the imparfait ending aient. So the answer becomes applaudissez. The third one, la jeune fille battre, has to be done in the passé composé. So battre is an avoir verb. So you would conjugate avoir for L, which is a, and then you have to change battre into its participle. Re verbs form their participle by substituting the re with u. So it becomes abattu. The fourth one, ramasser, has to be put in the conditional. So you know the conditional takes the future root. In this case it's an er verb, so the future root is the verb itself, and then add on the imparfait ending for je, which is ais, and you get your answer. On this slide and on the next slide you have some practice questions, which is exactly how it will appear for your board exam. You are given the verb and you are given the tense. There are no options. This is the second type of question. Please attempt these, do it carefully, and on the third slide you will get the answers. I will see you again with the third part of this lesson in grammar, which is the sentence structures. I hope you've understood all the tenses so far, and I'll see you soon with the next video. Thank you.